the day, another crafting survival game released out in a paid open beta. But hey, it has the RuneScape name attached to it, so everyone got excited. Here's a good thing though, you really don't need to know anything about RuneScape to play this, so I can play it without issue. So really the big question to ask, is RuneScape Dragonwilds a game that stands on its own? Or is it really just another crafting survival game among the many we've had over the years, released in an open beta to make a quick buck? Since it did just release in open beta, I expect the game to be a bit bare bones and lacking. I'll be taking that into account to try to envision what we will get later on, while at the same time also scrutinizing what we currently have on its own merits. The current version at the time of writing this script, I believe, is 0.7, which is the initial release just to keep things in context for the future. Now on to the game. Interestingly, the opening story has nothing to do with you. A group of adventurers were sailing across the ocean when they suddenly were shipwrecked by a dragon. Instead of handling things themselves as experienced adventurers, they instead summon you, and your group of friends if you have any, I don't, to help them. You have absolutely no experience or equipment, so who knows why they summoned you. They give you a quick tutorial on how to gather food and water, and how to craft things to survive, and then send you on your way. The main quest is chasing after one of their buddies that ran off on his own to try and handle the situation on the island. And yeah, that's about it. You're just behind this guy each time you get to the next major quest location, all the while gathering materials for new gear, better food and potions, and the typical crafting survival stuff you're used to. There are some logs scattered about everywhere if you want some more story and lore, as well as side quests to distract you. I never do expect much from the story of a crafting survival game. I think the long hours grinding and preparing bases and equipment would ruin the pacing of any intensive story. Imagine having 10 hours between any story bits. Messes with the mood a bit. Before jumping into the actual gameplay, I just wanted to mention visually the game is surprisingly nice. I think I mainly like the fractured plains and its more magical feel to its looks. Swamps can go away though, they look fine, they are swamps, but traversing them is annoying. But unlike things like the Forest and Rust, and even Valheim until the newer updates, they look like fantasy worlds and not just something that could exist in real life. I don't think they are bad for that, but it's nice having something different, and of course it fits the aesthetic of RuneScape with its dragons and magic. So with the gameplay, you have your typical crafting survival systems. You need to recover your hunger every so often as well as thirst. You also have a rest meter, which you can recover by sleeping. Hunger and thirst aren't so bad, they are more just slight inconveniences that require you to gather some water and meat on your travels. You shouldn't have any problem keeping those taken care of. Food and drinks are more for buffs later on as you get new ingredients rather than the actual hunger and thirst meters. It really feels like they added those on because other games do it. Rest, though, is more annoying. As it drops, you lose max stamina, and eventually your thirst and hunger meters get capped lower. The hunger and thirst still don't matter in this case, but the reduced stamina is irritating. You need stamina to do most actions, attacking, mining, chopping, and running, so after a long dungeon run you'll be a little lower on stamina and require you to rest. That also isn't really a big deal, except you can only sleep at night, which also wouldn't be a big deal, but days last quite a while, so if you miss your chance at sleeping, you'll just have to lay in bed to recover it over time. Overall, it really isn't a big deal, but it's just annoying to need to stop and lay there to recover stamina just because you missed the night cycle trying to head back to base. None of these are difficult to manage and just end up being an annoyance. After that, you have your gathering system. Take your pickaxe and gather lots and lots of stone and ore. Grab your axe and grab lots of wood. You'll need them to craft various weapons and structures. You can spend a little bit of time and easily end up with enough to build the essentials. Granted, if you want to go big and build elaborate structures, that'll take a while longer. Still, a lot more forgiving than other survival crafters out there. Another thing that helps are the skills you can learn. Every action grants experience towards that specific skill. Attacking, crafting, building, resource gathering. They all have a skill in a similar vein to old RuneScape. Generally, each individual level, but not always, will grant minor buffs like reduced equipment durability usage and stuff like that. But at certain milestones, you'll either get access to some new recipes, like in the case of crafting skills, or active magic skills like being able to cut down multiple trees in a line in a single throw. These are really cool and give the player rewards for doing more menial tasks like gathering that used to only pay off once you gather enough materials to build or craft whatever you need. Now in the middle of these tasks, you'll get little extra bonuses. You do level quite quickly as well, for better or for worse. I'm not sure how well that speed will work in a longer and more complete experience though. And while the max level is 99 on skills, you'll actually cap out at 50 as there's nothing past that. You do feel the beta status of the game here as well, as some skills got more love than others. For the weapons, you can only level melee skills for now, which encompass all melee weapons, daggers, swords, etc. Magic and archery on the other hand are not developed yet. I really feel like they should have put more focus into those, as now 2 of the 3 weapon styles are essentially discouraged to be used. You still can, and they work perfectly fine, but the fact that you aren't getting any experience is always in the back of my mind. Overall though, I could see the skill system being something that makes the grinding in the game much more tolerable, with little rewards here and there sprinkled about. Speaking of weapons, combat's pretty decent. 3 weapon types as mentioned before are melee, archery, and magic. Melee has various types of weapons, from quick, speedy daggers, balanced swords, two-handed weapons, and slower maces, the typical. Archery currently only has just bows and arrow types you can craft. Not much there to really talk about. Magic for fighting is pretty neat. You can craft stabs to amplify your magic damage, just like the bow and arrows do for archery. The thing that changes things is the runes you use. Fire and wind are the only runes you can use for battle at the moment, with wind for knocking enemies back and doing single target damage, and fire being more about explosive AoE. I do find myself making use of both melee weapons and magic. Archery does feel a bit redundant with how good magic is, however while magic has good damage, they are easily interrupted. Archery can do little hopbacks to avoid enemy attacks while still firing at them, so it gives archers some dynamic gameplay. So all in all, melee weapons are close and personal with combat revolving around dodging and parries. Archers try to kill the enemy before they reach them while hopping backwards. Mages have versatility at range for large attacks and some crowd control. They definitely need to add something to archery, and to add the skill trees for archery and magic as well. But as a base, the combat is nice and fluid. Enemies can deal a lot of damage and overwhelm you with numbers if you aren't careful, and managing your stamina is very important. The most annoying thing and something I feel like they should really change is the input buffering. Essentially, if you press an action key to say, mine again, while you're currently in the animation for mining, you will mine again. It does not matter if you press it at the very start of the animation and it takes 2 seconds to swing. It will remember it. It is the same for combat. Having some input buffering is good. It can help with controls a lot of the time, but it should be toned down quite a bit. Combat overall is pretty good though. It is enjoyable and satisfying. Enemies can be dangerous in packs, though solo enemies can easily be kited around for the most part. One thing that can be frustrating in combat, let alone when just moving about the world, the movement isn't always great. Running is fine. Combat itself is fine. The issues are the slopes. Unless you're really following designated paths, a lot of times a little incline will completely stop your character from moving, even though it's not that steep. They will want to increase the player's slope climbing abilities, as this is just irritating, which leads me into jumping. Jumping can be awkward, as if you touch the side of anything you are trying to jump on, you lose all momentum, so you likely won't get on top of what you're trying to. It really just makes climbing ore piles, hills, and rocks really obnoxious, especially when trying to deal with enemies. I hope they fine-tune this some more, as it shouldn't be difficult and would make the gameplay a lot smoother. I mentioned runes earlier, something you could choose for staves to fire. They are similar to arrows as consumable ammunition for each time you fire a spell. On top of that, there are also resources for casting your abilities, like the tree chop I also mentioned earlier. It's a nice callback to the old RuneScape system. Generally, they are just another resource to keep stock on. You get rune fragments as something you can farm and can craft a bunch of runes that don't weigh anything and just stock up on them. They really should never get in your way, unlike arrows, which have a weight to them, so you can't carry an infinite amount of them. While it is convenient to not really have to worry about runes, I do feel like they need to expand on it some more, since they can easily be bulk crafted and held. They don't add anything to the game besides being similar to the old RuneScape systems. Maybe they just need to be more expensive to craft, or at least have some weight so you can't carry all the runes. As for additional things to do, you have side quests and runes to explore. The side quests are neat and they don't hold your hand either. Sometimes they will point out where you need to go, but a lot of them just tell you. This thing over here by an area to the south. Find the goblin in a cave where things are murky and sticky, things like that. I'm not used to games not just pinpointing exactly where I need to go. It is a little fun, if not a little annoying at times. I prefer it this way though, overall, so I hope they keep at it. The runes were neat to explore, however they have one big issue. The rewards are boring. Besides being required to clear some for quests, the only real rewards are vault cores and fragments, and sometimes tier 4 recipes. The vault cores and fragments are important materials for certain crafting recipes, but that is all you ever get, and random resources. It gets boring. The tier 4 recipes are cool as an additional reward if you find them. However, you can't craft them till the end game anyway, so you don't get the benefit even if you find them early on, which is just a tease. You should get a powerful weapon or armor you can actually make and use at your current state. That would be much more interesting as a reward. The runes themselves look neat with a bunch of traps and a couple unique enemy types. However, they all look like this, and have these enemies. Traps are also easy to dodge, as in, you can dodge roll and invulnerability frame through them. But when you're dealing with traps and enemies at the same time, they can still be a threat, so not that much of a problem. So the big problem with the runes are that they are incredibly repetitive and don't reward the player enough with unique item, at least ones that they can use at that point in the game. They just need to add some variety and they will be golden. Building in this game is pretty standard too. You have a bunch of pre-built selections you can attach together on a grid, along with crafting stations, beds, decorations, and so on. As a prolific builder myself, I can assure you that it meets standards. It does have a spell you unlock that gives you a better point of view for buildings as well, which is really convenient. If you like building little towns, you'll likely enjoy the building in this, except for one thing. After you reach a certain early part of the main quest, a large dragon will randomly attack at times, bombarding the area in poison blasts. It's a cool way to constantly have the boss enemy in the area at times to show the player that they are a threat, at least in theory. In practice, after the first time, it became annoying. Poison ignores roofs so that buildings don't help. You could just be crafting some stuff and bam! Poison and you die. Hopefully it didn't hit your bed, otherwise you're going to die a few more times. And there isn't anything you can do about it either. You just have to dodge and wait for him to leave and for the poison to dissipate. It's more annoying than the random raids. Raids are also random events where a group of enemies can just spawn near you and attack. In the wild, while exploring and battling, it can really ruin a fight when 5 more enemies just spawn out of nowhere. But it adds a bit of excitement and panic, just like the dragon attacks could. When you're at base just crafting away or walking away from your computer for a moment, all of a sudden you have a group of enemies attacking your buildings. It's honestly really annoying, and they should add a prevention mechanism to the game, either through a craftable item or just some in-game logic that prevents the events from happening near a player's claim bed. It's just not fun and interrupts what you're actually trying to do most of the time. Among some other things that should probably be tweaked, goblins and their variants drop these loot bags that you can open. I believe they are always guaranteed to drop one, and it'll give you some runes and shards and maybe a potion. So it's a nice payout. However, with the amount you get, you can only open one at a time with a slight cast time for opening them. A nice quality of life change would be opening a stack at once, or just let me spam right click to open. I had like 50 at one point, and it takes an annoying amount of time to open them. Another thing is weather in one specific area that should be changed as well. This later area has a bunch of rain and lightning at all times, which makes sense for the area, but once it hits nighttime it becomes really difficult to see at all because of all the weather effects. Just tone it down a bit. As an early access paid game, you get about 20-ish hours of gameplay that can extend much longer if you want to build large forts and craft and display every weapon in the game. If you just focus on the combat and quests, it's about the 20-ish hours. A good chunk of that time is gathering and crafting though. Usually crafting survival games rack up a lot of playtime because of the grind for materials. Dragonwilds doesn't require as much grinding, but it is still there. So you can argue that the game is even shorter than that currently. And for $30, that's kind of a steep price for a game that doesn't even have skill trees for 2 of your 3 weapon types. The game isn't bad. I see a lot of potential in it if they keep on track with what they are doing. It'll slowly evolve while adding new areas, enemies, and skills for the players to experience. I just can't quite justify $30 for its current state though. Maybe $20 would be enough. The game looks good and plays fine, but aside from the skill trees, it doesn't do a whole lot new. But it does what it does well. Combat is fun and fluid with cool magic and weapons. Gathering is fun because of skills and abilities you can use. Hell, even repairing isn't a problem because you can just magic them to repair them. Once they add in more content to fill in the missing chunks and add in some more variety in enemies and rewards, this game will definitely be worth $30 if not more. Hopefully they keep on track though, as we have also seen many survival crafting games fail after making their initial dollars. We do have their roadmap to go off of in terms of their priorities. So we know they are going to focus on new areas and bosses, new skills and quests among other things. We don't really get much of a timeline, at least on the roadmap in the game, but I do like what I see. I'm really excited to see more skill trees, especially if they flesh out the current ones more. I do hope that they go back and improve systems and designs that are already in the game though, and don't go an Ark Survival Evolved route where they only add in new stuff and just ignore the current issues. But all in all, I do have decent hopes that this game will turn out well. Let me know what you guys think of RuneScape Dragonwilds in the comments below. Did nostalgia help you through the game, or was it actually a good experience? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.